Growing up as a kid, I was always one of the most explosive people, always in my vicinity, really, whether it be at school or any sort of extracurricular activities outside of school. I was always the one who could sprint the fastest, or at least one of the ones who could sprint the fastest, jump the highest, and just exert more power than most at any given time. So yesterday's session was really interesting. I decided to mix in some explosive movements, just really simple stuff. It was shocking. It was really shocking. It was a perfect example of the idea that if you don't use it, you lose it. And after messing around and playing with the dog before going and doing my session, I realized, wow, I've forgotten how to jump. I've spent so long now not having trained any specifically explosive movements, i.e. just a simple tuck jump, that my body has forgotten how to do it. I have cognitively also forgotten how to do it, which is very, very interesting, because I never would have assumed that would be the case for me. I was, I guess, very naive to the fact that even somebody who was naturally inclined to those kind of movements would lose it if they stopped using it and started training more, how would I put it, specifically. And I always have this line from Faraz Zahabi, GSP's head coach, when he was talking about principles behind the way he used to train GSP. One of the things that really stuck out to me was, like, why would I train my fighter like a tow truck when I need him to be an athlete? And he said that line in response to how they do mostly, for example, gymnastics work for like strength training. They do very short cardio. He never used to get them to do steady state cardio for more than 15 minutes, combined with a lot of explosive work, which anybody who knows anything about MMA knows how amazing GSP was as both a fighter and an athlete. And that was something that always stuck in my mind. So yesterday in my experimentation, it was very easy to see where I had really let my body go. And now when I'm grappling in particular, I still feel like I can trust my explosiveness when I need it. However, it goes without saying that you tap into your real potential when you're training it and your body is used to using those fibers on a daily basis. So to summarize, this session actually left me very, very excited. I'm very excited because the other day I overdid it slightly on the treadmill and went for a 15-minute run after 5 minutes on the Stairmaster. And I really enjoyed that. My calves are still lit up from that. And my the calf is something that I feel like I have somewhat neglected over the years due to not really enjoying calf exercises. I'm just not drawn to specific calf exercises. They seem really mundane to me. However, these last couple of sessions, when I have put a lot of emphasis on, I guess you could say cardio, but I'm quite hesitant to say it because, as you'll see in the clips, this session was still very much a weight session. It just was always topped up with a little bit of explosive movement, so to speak. I sprinkled a little bit of explosive movement on the top of a few things, not everything, but a few things, which, as anybody who does cardio a fair bit would know, i.e. running, skipping, they're the two things that stick to my mind because they're the two things that I've done the most of. would know how much tax that puts on your calf. And it's something that I initially got thinking about from starting to learn kickboxing, because you spend a lot of time, or all the time, on the balls of your feet. And in the warm-up drills, I guess you could call them, you feel that, and you feel that your body is not used to spending time on the balls of its feet, and your calves are not accustomed to the excess load that is put on them in a elongate, because you're on the balls of your feet and your knees are often either in line or over your toes. Your calf is both elongated and under tension. And if you're not training your body to be used to that, it's going to be shocked when you ask it to do that. So targeting that specific feeling, I guess you could say, yesterday felt really good. It felt really, really nice. I skipped to warm up. I haven't skipped consistently in years. I haven't skipped consistently, funnily enough, since I learned how to skip when I was about 17, 18. A friend I used to work with taught me how. He's an amazing skipper. And then I actually followed up with a routine that I was doing summer 2022. So yeah, summer 2021. I spent about 4 to 6 months, if I remember rightly. I wasn't documenting my training at the time, so I don't have any data to go back on. But I'm pretty sure it was about 4 to 6 months. I basically lived in the studio of my gym, literally just doing this knees over toes routine, which consisted of tibialis raises and then full range of motion calf raises. Some more tibialis raises. The emphasis on the tib raises were a big eye opener to me. I'd never trained the tib before. I'd never focused on it. I'd never even paid it no mind. I didn't really know what it was, and I didn't know it existed. I thought it was just a muscle that some people had developed and some people didn't. So I just assumed that I was one of those people who didn't. And then some knees over toes calf raises. So it basically just primes your lower leg for what you're about to put it through, which is some people call them single leg elevated squats, I guess you could say, where you stand on a raised platform, you straighten out the leg that is not standing on the platform, and you squat down using your hips to hinge as if you was doing an actual squat, and just tap your heel of the non-planted foot on the floor. It's surprisingly a real burner, and it will light up whatever weaknesses you have in that movement. And it's nice because it's regressive. You can do it I started doing it just on the floor, which was tough at the time. And then slowly you increase your height and you can add weight, whether it be through a barbell or dumbbells. So I really enjoy that movement. I then moved on to what the knees over toe guys coined the ATG split squat, which is just a simple single leg squat, but at full range of motion. So you are pushing your body to both elongate your hip flexor of the backwards leg and get full calf and hamstring coverage on your front leg whilst attempting to keep your heel to the ground. Again, that's something that's regressive by elevating that front foot. The higher you elevate it, the easier it becomes. And yeah, if you've watched my videos before, you would have seen me do slightly more advanced versions of it with no elevation and front racking the weight, which places a huge emphasis on hip mobility when you front rack it, and you get a really, really good stretch. And that exercise is easily one of my favorite exercises, because you wake up in the morning feeling like a new man every single day. And mixed in some basic stretches in between all of this, just to stay loose and get as open as possible. And then I moved on to what was probably the most difficult part of my workout. So I knew I wanted to do some sort of row. I knew I loved the standing row. I do a slight variation of what Olympic lifters do. I like to get one leg straightened out, back nice and straight, elbow on one leg, and just row. You'll see it in this clip. Because I like having to use my whole body really as much as possible when I'm lifting. So I did some rows supersetted with some tuck jumps. Initially, I was trying to jump and touch the ceiling near me, but there was something about that just didn't feel as taxing as the tuck jump. So in the first set, I tried both, and in the second set, I just stuck with the tuck jumps. And then I moved on to some, I guess you could call them hip tosses, just gluing my elbow to my hip, pivoting from my hips as you would to throw a punch, throwing I think it was a 9 kilo medicine ball into some squats with the med ball, and then a throw at the top end of the squat. And then when I catch it, I sprawl, as you would in wrestling, for example. Transition straight into some lying leg raises. And I only did that all once, actually, because after the experience with the running, I decided today's experimental. Let's not break yourself so that you can come back tomorrow and have some fun again. I then did some pull-ups, just a few pull-ups, and some hanging leg raises, because I feel like whenever I end my session on hanging leg raises, my spine always just feels nice and relaxed, and my core is nicely engaged. And man, I feel like that's a nice balance, considering that your core and your lower back are the only things protecting your lumbar spine. So if you can release one and tighten the other, and vice versa, then yeah, I always feel nice after that. Cooled down with just some 5-minute Stairmaster and a 10-minute stretch. So it was a productive session. It was fun. And yeah, I'm interested to see what today brings. I'm interested to see what I get into today. And yeah, again, if you made it this far, thank you very much. And I shall see you tomorrow.